It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to open the Board of Trustees, Lamar Consolidated Independent School District regular board meeting for August 15th, 2019 to order. We have a quorum with everyone present. We will now open the meeting with our traditional moment of silence for you to observe as you feel appropriate. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Dr. Randall, any recognitions or awards tonight?
We do not have any recognitions or awards, but we do have introductions, Madam President.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I would like to introduce to you our new Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education, Diane Parks. Diane is a May '82 graduate of Purdue University with a bachelor's degree in elementary education. In 1987, she received a master's in administration and supervision from the University of Houston. She has 36 years of experience, including 8 years of teaching, 6 years as an assistant principal, and 22 years as a principal, most recently at Hubenack Elementary. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the new principal at Hubenack Elementary, Ernie Bainbridge. He's joined tonight by his wife, Lindsay, and their children, Parker and Bennett. Ernie is a December 2008 graduate of the University of Houston with a bachelor's degree in art. In 2015, he received a master's in educational administration from Lamar University. He has 9 years of education experience, including 6 years of teaching experience and 5 years as an assistant principal, most recently at Hubenack Elementary. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Melissa Smith, the new principal at the Alternative Learning Center. Dr. Smith is a May 2005 graduate of the University of New Orleans with a bachelor's degree in English education. She received her master's in 2007 in curriculum and instruction from the University of Phoenix and her doctorate in 2016 in educational leadership from the University of Phoenix. She has 16 years of experience, including 13 years of teaching, 2 years as an assistant principal, and 1 year as an associate principal. Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay. Now we move on to audience to the patrons. Do we have this evening?
Yes, Madam President, we are now at the portion of the meeting when the board allots time for persons who desire to make comments to the board. Persons who wish to speak to the board must sign up to do so as they arrive, and they must indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. No presentation shall exceed 5 minutes. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views. The board will hear the concerns, but the board cannot deliberate, discuss, or make a decision on any subject that is not posted on the agenda. Persons who speak to the board cannot complain about a district officer or employee in open session. Such concerns are heard in closed session after proper posting of the agenda item has occurred. As you come forward, please state your name and your address. Our first speaker is William Mazar.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. I know you have long days, but a little thing about myself. William Mazur, 32718 Whitburn Trail, Fulshire. And I'm here for 2 reasons. One, as a taxpayer in the district, and also I have 2 grandkids in the school district. So a little bit about why I have some basic knowledge. I have 45 years of engineering, and I have worked on some of the world's largest projects in Saudi Arabia and the United States. For the last 23 years, I have switched from the design phase to the forensic phase. And the forensic phase is working with attorneys on defense of entities who were involved in an accident. And so I know a little bit about risk assessment. And I was asked to come here on Tuesday and listen to the presentations and see what I thought about the increased risk that maybe are going to assume here in our district. And that wouldn't be good for any of us. So as a taxpayer and also as you as a board, you don't want to increase your risk of having an accident. And, everything that we do now in the commercial world is accident and safety related. So with that in mind, I listened to the professionals present their building assessments, and I thought they were excellent presentations, to the point exactly what they were trying to achieve and their goals and who they had talked to. But when I heard the other presentation, I had a few problems understanding the level of activity they did to create their opinions and comments. So I'm going to go over a few of those that may be increasing our risk. Now, granted, you may have already covered it, and if you have, then you can disregard it. But if you haven't, here's a few things. Like I said, I didn't hear any positive goals to create a safe learning environment for the children, which is the key to all of us. The lack of individual factors of each student. What were their risk factors? And how were they being, with this new plan, how were they being addressed? And I have copies for everybody of this presentation, so you don't have to take notes if you don't want to. So increasing the risk for special needs. Special needs kids vary greatly. Some are overactive and some are underactive. And the physically handicapped have a greater need than, say, your normal student. They are easily injured. Now, I have talked to my cousin John Mazer in Jacksonville, who is a surgeon who puts back physically impaired children when they're injured. And he can tell you some really horrific stories. But we need to make sure that they're protected while they're in your custody. The inability for some of them to walk or even to be able to feed themselves is a big issue. And it takes a lot of the caregivers at the school's time. So that needs to be factored in. My granddaughter, she's sometimes in a standard, and the wheels space out really far. And now when she comes out of that and is in the classroom, it takes a lot of room in the classroom. So all these things need to be addressed. Feeding tubes, special diets, children with breathing problems, all this takes a lot of room for this material to be in a classroom. So that all needs to be considered, and I didn't hear any considerations for that when they were combining classrooms. Again, staff turnover and training of the new staff is a key issue. So in summary, I'm really wondering whether we're going to be able to keep up with the standard of care that the industry out there requires of us as we move forward into the next couple of years and a new strategic plan. And why I'm concerned is I'm in the courtroom and I hear the awards that are being awarded to injury cases, and one of these children being injured, whether it's a behavioral child running and tripping over some of this equipment and getting injured, or the actual child, that's going to be a problem. And lastly, I'm worried about you guys, because now the courts are taking it down to your level to be sued, and your insurance level I saw is low. You want to keep it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Our next speaker is Michelle Armstrong.
Hi. Are we ready? We're going to do 5
There you
minutes.
go.
All right, here we go. I'm concerned today about the following. I have 5 minutes, so let's go fast. Okay, about the presentation, concerned about the sustainability of this special education program introduced in 2019. The plan is reactive and not a plan for the future. It is going to cover this year only, and it'll be changing next year, guaranteed. Number 2, concerned about the quote from an administrator that the observations of the classrooms were behavioral issues. There were more behavioral issues in an inclusion classroom than in a behavioral classroom. What tool or instrument was used during this observation? Sign-in sheets need to be produced. What professionals were there during the observation? A neurologist, ABA specialist. Were the kids placed in the wrong classroom during this observation? Sorry. The reason I ask these questions is to the untrained eye, muscle spasms due to a neurological condition can be perceived as behavioral. Also, assumptions are not evidence-based data. Also, unanswered questions from the presentation. Is the growth of the special needs program at the same rate as the district's overall growth? That would be profound. 2, what disabilities are growing the fastest? What's growing the slowest? i.e., is it a physical disability? Is it IDD? Is it a behavioral, etc.? Support staffing is a concern. We don't know our demographics of special needs children. It's hard to staff PT, OT, speech, O&M, and etc. 2, more campuses also means more support staff. With the travel time to more location will also offer less in the classroom. 3, concerns about the high turnover rates. This could be depleting our resources. 4, after looking into 2 programs, the administration only noticed that the difference amount of SPED and SLIP was the amount of outside time of these classrooms that the kids spent. How is this new program of mixing behavioral children and physically impaired children going to scaffold our children's learning? How is it going to help our children's active achieve their IEPs? Lastly, I would like to give you a little insight of why inclusion classrooms need 1 teacher, 2 para at the minimal. In my daughter's ARD, she is a 2-man lift. This leaves a class very vulnerable. Her needs to move and reposition are every 15 to 30 minutes per a neurologist. She needs to be moved to the floor, to a wheelchair, to a stander, to a gait trainer, back to the wheelchair for dismissal. She is also G-tube fed, which I do have an incident that I would like to have on record. Just days attending Adolphus Elementary, her G-tube was taken out. By who? We don't know if it was a student, a teacher, or a para. This cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was a new G-tube we had to give her. We had to go to the doctors. And not only that, we had to do an emergency because with her, she is externally fed and she is 100%. So she cannot eat by mouth. So how do you feel when you don't eat? Exactly. So, and that is only 1 child I'm representing today. How much time do you think that takes out of the classroom for 1 teacher or 1 para? So you're leaving your classes vulnerable, guys. Also, I do have other concerns from another person that would like to present for them. Let me see if I can get through this. Okay, 2 other concerns. The most vulnerable children, mixing of the 2 behavioral and neurological kids. They learn differently. They're 2 different categories. It would be like a doctor saying you have to, I guess, surgically remove the left, they take the right. It's 2 different beasts. You also need to look at doing something with the acronyms. For a special needs parent, I'm in the school district, I know it. But you are infuriating people when they can't figure out what you're talking about. Are you talking about SPED? What does that mean in terms of SLIP? You're confusing. And it is very frustrating. And I did it. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
Our next speaker is Cheryl Morris.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Morris. I was at the board workshop on Tuesday, and on Tuesday during the board workshop, there was a discussion about an approval item.
Could you speak up just a little bit more into the microphone so we can hear you?
Yes.
Thank you. We want to make sure we hear exactly what you're saying.
Should I start over?
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. You can continue.
Okay, there was a discussion about an approval item, the superintendent's SMART goals, and how, I guess, I don't know if it was just Dr. Randall or a committee, but the strategic plan and the priorities from the strategic plan apply to the superintendent's SMART goals to the strategic plan. And Dr. Randall also mentioned the district improvement plan has also been coordinated with the strategic plan. I hope I said all that right. I think I had it written down correctly. I hope I said it correctly. The strategic plan is not something we have every year, and I do not think it is even a requirement. Also, it is my understanding that the strategic plan is supposed to be a guide for us for the next 5 years. I personally feel it was adopted before enough information was shared with parents and the public. Now the board is being asked to approve more items, and there is still just not enough information that has been shared. It feels like everything is being combined and with very little clarity and specific details. I relate these items, the superintendent's SMART goals, along with coordinating the district improvement plan, which is a requirement, a Texas Education Code requirement, to my original concerns when there wasn't enough information provided to begin with, which was with the strategic plan. I would ask that you please do not approve anything at this point, as there is much needed information to be shared with parents and the public. Because if we're doing a the strategic plan, I understand, was already approved in April, but all of these other things, such as coordinating the district improvement plan, for all of that to be combined together on something that is supposed to be taking us 5 years, parents need some information. We need, to know sort of where are we being guided to. It's been called a roadmap, and usually with a map, you sort of have a destination in mind. So I would like to kind of get a feel for what is our ultimate destination. The district improvement plan is created every year, again, because of a Texas Education Code provision, and for this, there is supposed to be at least one open meeting. As a parent and a taxpayer, I cannot attend that one open meeting prepared enough to know if I need to ask questions, and if so, what questions I need to ask. Parents are just not getting enough. We're not being provided enough information to build an understanding of what is happening. I don't think that the code says that you have to only have one open meeting. I think if the district wanted to have all of the meetings open, they could. I understand for FERPA reasons, if you need to have subcommittees, that's fine, but there really needs to be more discussion with the inclusion of parents in the community, sort of in an open environment. Just to give you an example, I've had 2 experiences where I went starting a new year at school, and there were changes. One year it was a significant change, and the second year, it was actually last year. This is very minor, but to me it's just sort of worth mentioning. Science Olympiad was a program that we participated in 5th grade, and my child really liked it. And I actually didn't notice in 6th grade that it wasn't offered to us, but it wasn't offered in 7th grade. And, I was kind of looking around for things for my child to do, just sort of as an extracurricular thing, and he liked science. Science Olympiad was no longer available, and I asked, well, where was that decided? I just think that parents need to be included in decisions, and if it's a matter of we're taking these things away because there's not enough volunteers, because I know teachers have a lot to do, well, maybe parents would step up, but we just need to know. So please let's start communicating. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's all.
All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we have to approve the minutes June 18th, 2019, the special meeting workshop. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion
All
to
right, we
approve.
make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? And we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Then we have the June 20th, 2019 regular board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Joe, second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, any opposed? All right. Board member reports. Do we have some reports for today? You have one?
To President. So
Okay.
I have a report from the Facilities Committee meeting, which met on Tuesday, and some updates about our facilities. So first, Culver Elementary School and Roberts Middle School are both, construction is completed. The punch lists are nearing completion, and those schools are occupied and ready for school to start in a couple weeks. The new maintenance and operations facility, the warranty corrections are being addressed, and it's occupied and operational. The service center closeout documents are under review. Punch list items are being reviewed. Tamaron Elementary School, the beams have been lifted, and it is underway to be completed for the beginning of the 2020-21 school year. The Terry High School Band Hall, there was an issue with the door going in there, which was creating a safety issue. The work was initiated on the door and was completed a few days later. The only remaining item there is that the door will need to be painted, and that should be completed tomorrow. For the 2017 bond facilities, the turf and track projects, all of the projects are complete. Fulshire, Foster, George Ranch, Terry High School, all of the turf and track projects are finished. The fields are in use. Foster High School, the athletic improvements, the lockers are complete. The football lockers are already in use by the team, and the replacement of the dugouts is scheduled to be completed in November. Several campuses are also receiving improvements: Williams Elementary, Campbell Elementary, Navarro Middle School, Westendorf Middle School. Those are either complete or are complete except for a few remaining items, but they're all very close. Freezer and cooler replacements, that project is complete. The Alternative Learning Center addition renovations and the Jane Long Historical Gym renovations, we received a report on that on Tuesday, and we're voting on that in today's meeting. The language other than English lab, the equipment that we voted on either last month or a couple months ago, that has been completed and installed. The transportation center, the fuel tank replacement, the kickoff design meeting is in August 20th, and it's going to be phased in to ensure that there's no disruption of the buses for the beginning of the school year. The facilities assessment and long-range plan, the administration will have completed by the end of this month all of the campus site visits, and then all of the data will be aggregated by the end of October, and then the long-range facility plan will start to be put together. The classroom intruder locks, that project is completed. The final payment is on today's agenda. The child nutrition serving lines at Terry High School and George Junior High is scheduled to be completed next week. Randall High School and Wright Junior High School, construction's in progress. And then the trailer stadium press box advertising for contractors has begun, and the project will be completed next summer.
Okay, thank you. All right. Do you have, no, nothing really? Okay.
All right, anyone else? Okay, I have a few. Of course I do. This past month, in July 22nd, I was invited to go to Austin to a luncheon held by Holdsworth to introduce the 3 new schools from our district that will now be participating in that program. And I think it's Lamar Junior High, Polly Ryan, and Terry High School, if I remember correctly. And it was a wonderful kickoff. There was schools from all the other 6 other districts that all were the flagship, I guess, districts with this, with the Holsworth program. And they were all very excited, and you'll be proud of your Dr. Randall up there with the other superintendents doing a question answer. And it was very informative. So I know those schools, those teams had an exciting week getting their self started with Holsworth. I want to do at this time a shout out, of course, to Jill Davis, another successful Hope on the Brazos. We had probably over 1,000 people there that day, and they said on Monday 150 more children showed up. So what her volunteers and the parents, and there was one mother there with 2 teenage sons, and she told me, you do this, and she put them with myself and my friend, because we were making carry things to the car. She says, whatever those ladies tell you do it. So it was an exciting day, and I know Jill was glad when the day was over, but she's still very busy over there. I did also get to go this week on Monday and Tuesday to see the new teachers and the newbies, the ones we call the first ones. Of course, Janice Knight was there with her $100 bills, and she played a joke on them, and some of them really didn't think they were supposed to get $100, went on to lunch, and they said, no, it's for real. You actually get a $100 bill. And one said, good, because I need it for gas money. So I know. So I was very, very, it was very exciting to see all the new teachers. I went over there also on Tuesday. And then I just want to say, I know that some of us got this in our, with our board items, and I just want to do a thank you to Terry High School. They brought back from Foshan when they were there visiting, and they apologized for the late gift, but look how beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous? And we do thank them, the rest of us on the board. So we've had kind of a busy, even though we didn't meet, we were very busy.
Madam President, I just had one other note. Myself and Ms. Williams and Mr. Welch have had an opportunity as new board members this summer to do some visits to some of the facilities, and I wanted to thank Nikki Nelson, Jennifer Roberts, and Mike Rockwood for showing us around and showing us some of the places that we might not ordinarily get to see, but that are still integral to the work of the board. And as a first-year board member, and the first time sitting on this side of the table, it's really just been astonishing to see how much the administration has done. I mean, it is an astonishing amount of work over the summer. You know, slogging through HB3 and figuring out what it all means, and restructuring SLC and SCSC, and hiring just a ton of new teachers and administrators, and I just wanted to thank the administration and the cabinet and everybody who's involved in that for all of your work.
All right, Dr. Randall, you have a superintendent report?
I actually do.
Good.
Brian Moore will be giving the board an update on the STAR results later in the board meeting. However, I wanted to take an opportunity to thank the board for their support of the staff and setting the vision this past school year. And I would like to ask everyone that is a staff member in LCISD to stand for just a minute. I mean everybody. We believe it takes everyone to create an environment for student success. We received our ratings today. We had 3 campuses that received a C, 16 a B, and 16 an A, and the district's overall rating was an A. Their hard work, every one of them is paying off. And I want to thank the staff for all of their commitment, and our kids, and I'm going to pass that information along to the rest of our staff, our teachers, and everyone that are out there working extremely hard. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to hear how well they've done this past year. So thank you. That's my report, Madam President.
Thank you, and that's very exciting, and I know how hard it is, and the bigger we grow, the harder it gets, but we seem to just take on those tasks and say, bring it on, right? All right, now at this time, there's a public hearing for a proposed application for optional flexible school day program. Do I open and close with that?
It's open, and then if there are any questions.
Okay, I'll open that at 7:30. Are there any questions on that subject? And then I'll close it at 7:30. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we are going to make a consent agenda. If there is something that needs to be pulled, please let me know. First, we do goal A1, A2, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11, B12, and I will come back and read those donations. All right, B13.
Go ahead.
Okay. B14, B15, although we will read those resolutions. B16, B17, B18, B19, B20, B21, C1, C2, and D1. All right, so the consent agenda is A1 and 2, B1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, C1 and 2, and D1. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, make a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Before we go to our
Did
number...
you say motion carries?
Motion carries, yes, I did. I'm sorry. Let me read the donations and do the our resolutions, and then we'll work on the...
Yes, ma'am.
Because that's all right with you. All right, we have an addendum to what was in our board book, was left at your seats. And again, when I read these, I'm always so impressed and thankful that we have so many caring community to help our schools. Adolphus Elementary PTO donated $32,154 to purchase laptops, charging carts, and iPads for Adolphus Elementary School. Campbell Elementary PTO donated $8,224.21 to purchase library books at Campbell Elementary School. Hubeneck Library donated $8,000 to purchase iPads for Hubeneck Elementary School. Friends of Huggins donated $22,130 to have a mural painted on the walls in the cafeteria and to purchase portable radios for the staff at Huggins Elementary School. Lowe's granted $5,000 to purchase new furniture, a Lego wall, and a maker space items for Lamar Junior High School. I'm going to have to go see what that Lego wall is all about. And finally, American Institutes for Research granted $8,750 to the Teaching and Learning Department to support early literacy proficiency plans. So again, thank you for all these donations. All right, Mr. Hunt, did you want to read the Childhood Cancer Awareness Month resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution, whereas in the United States, almost 16,000 children under the age of 21 are diagnosed with cancer every year, approximately 1/4 of whom will not survive the disease. And whereas cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among children between infancy and age 19. And whereas an estimated 1,600 children age 19 and younger in Texas were diagnosed with cancer, And whereas the objective of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month is to put a spotlight on the types of cancer that largely affect children, survivorship issues, and help raise funds for research and family support, therefore the Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declares September 2019 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Lamar CISD and encourages members of our community to reaffirm their commitment to fighting this terrible disease.
Right. You want to do the Hispanic Heritage?
Resolution, whereas September 15th is the anniversary of Independence Day for 5 Latin American countries and is celebrated as a major cultural event by Hispanics in this country and across the Americas, and whereas it is appropriate at this time to recognize the rich heritage and the significant contributions to American life by persons of Hispanic ancestry, and whereas schools are in a unique position to share an appreciation of Hispanics among children from all races and backgrounds, and whereas Lamar CISD schools commemorate Hispanic Heritage Month with special activities and observances, therefore, the Board of Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declares September 15th through October 15th, 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Lamar CISD and encourages members of our community to share in this celebration of our diverse American heritage.
Thank you. All right. The only agenda item that was pulled was 10B13 on page 136. Before discussion, we need a motion. Do I have a motion? Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? A second. Okay. All right. To start the discussion, I think, Dr. Randall, you have...
Yes, Mr. Rockwood is going to just
Okay.
kind of share just briefly
How
the
we got here.
process.
Okay.
Yes, good evening. So, looking at the superintendent SMART goals, traditionally there have been either 5 priorities or 5 SMART goals that the superintendent would have annually adopted by the school board. Last year we had our strategic plan. It was a 7-month process from October through April. We had over 18,000 respondents to both the survey and the 10 community meetings. And so knowing that we have this brand new 5-year strategic plan, during that process, it was expressed to the committee that we would use both the superintendent SMART goals and the annual district improvement plan as mechanisms to drive the work forward each year to see if we're getting down the road to these 5 strategic priorities. So the strategic plan had 5 strategic priorities, which are listed in this iteration of the superintendent SMART goals, along with 17 objectives. The superintendent, working with his cabinet, created each of the SMART goals aligned to each one of the objectives. And so this would create for this year 17 superintendent SMART goals that we would be looking at to accomplish in the upcoming school year. Now, when we come to the board in October with our district improvement plan, we would have the strategic planning priorities, the objectives, these SMART goals, and then the tactics and strategies added to how we're going to accomplish each one of these SMART goals. And so the plan has always been to align the strategic plan out of these 18,000 individuals who set the direction, the committee that did the work, and the board that ultimately approved the 5 big priorities. Our focus each year is to work on these things as described by the board and our community. And so these superintendent SMART goals are aligned to that strategic plan, and the district improvement plan will be aligned to these goals, but have even more detail around each one of the SMART goals and the objectives. Additionally, the district improvement plan is essentially a living document. And so as we work each year on different strategies or tactics to achieve the annual SMART goals, we can certainly take advice or input from the school board, from parents or staff to see how we're progressing. Additionally, what we've instituted, I think a couple of years ago now, is a quarterly district improvement plan update. So if the board were to approve this process and approve the district improvement plan in October, which aligns to these SMART goals, we would come back quarterly to give the board an update on the progress of these SMART goals, the objectives, and the strategies and tactics that we're implementing to get there. So it wouldn't be something that you wouldn't see again. You would get to see it repetitively throughout the year. But as mentioned at the beginning, the creation of these actual SMART goals was the superintendent cabinet working with the superintendent, lining them all out to align with the district strategic plan, and then coming to agreement on what we'll work on this year.
Do we have some questions? Do you have some? There are questions or
Okay,
comments?
so out of that, I think I got it all, but if you, so tonight, we can ask or make some suggestions that we'd like to possibly see, but you're going to have more details in October, right? So these aren't the full details.
So the superintendent's SMART goals, right, this is sort of like, again, setting a direction for the year. The district improvement plan in October will come to the board, and it will have even more strategies and tactics under each goal. So if board members or community members or anyone had any thoughts or feelings on any of these goals, the staff could certainly take that under advisement as we come back and present that to the board. But even when we do that and we have our district improvement plan approved by the board and we come back quarterly, if the board has feedback on the progress we're making at that time, we can certainly take that under advisement because it's for a continuous improvement year over year. So we certainly want to be meeting those goals.
Okay, so like a couple questions I had. So for example, on the page 140, so under the strategic, the rapid growth while preserving district culture, the objective to continue to build and maintain equitable campus buildings and shared district support facilities commensurate with the district's growth. So the SMART goal says the district will complete a comprehensive building review by January 2020. So that's the same one that they already have done?
That's the facilities assessment that Facilities and Planning is currently working on. So I know that they're going to get a lot of that feedback here in the next month or so. They'll analyze that and then bring a report back to the board for review.
So to me, I guess my question would be, and maybe this is my advice or whatever you were saying we could offer, would be I would, and I mentioned this to you, Dr. Randall, about a needs list, and you had mentioned that we would get the full report. So my input there would be I would like to see, if possible, the needs list from the campus, and then, kind of see what we've actually accomplished as the goals. To me, it's hard to measure some of these, and so maybe that's what you're saying, we're going to get more details in October that actually has a measurement, what we can measure the success by. So right now, just saying that they're going to complete the review, but what are we going to do with that review, I guess is what I would be looking for as a goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so the next step after we complete the facilities assessment would be to create a long-range facilities plan. And so out of everything that comes out of that assessment, the district would take that information and create a long-range plan for how we're going to look at our facilities in the district.
And so we will personally see as a board the actual needs list versus what y'all are wanting to accomplish, correct? So we can kind of see a comparison.
And then Kevin or
Yes.
Chris, I don't know if you have any more
Yes.
detail in
Yes.
terms of that, but my understanding is it will be
Yes.
So what about some of the short or near term, you said long term, like the near term or like now needs? Is that going to be part of that report, but it'll kind of already be done? If there's something you're already working on, that's not like a bond?
So when we get the facilities assessment report, there's two pieces. So we're going to look at a long-range facilities plan and how we interpret that information, but we are on a 3-year bond cycle. And what we typically do coming up in anticipation of our next bond is we'll look at all that information. It will help advise what needs to be something that we would be bringing forward to a Citizens Bond Advisory Committee, and what are some things that we can handle right now in-house. And so we essentially take all the information and then create a plan. We can do this in-house right now or over this year. These are things that are a bit larger in scope, and so we're going to bring that as a needs assessment to the Citizens Bond Advisory Committee whenever we call for another bond.
Okay.
And would that be something that the board could have input on too, if we felt like something was more dire than?
Absolutely, and ultimately, even when we get to that final point where we have a Citizens Bond Advisory Committee, the board certainly has the final say in that and can make adjustments to that recommendation as well.
Did you have, I think you had a couple more, Ms. Williams?
So as far as the, okay, this is page 139, under the safe and healthy environment, the last objective, so to ensure facility safety Ensure facility safety remains a priority through up-to-date technology and that all facilities provide a safe, inclusive, and effective learning environment for all. And then the SMART goal says campuses will achieve 100% compliance with the monthly safety drills guideline by June 2020. So is there going to be anything added to that, to those safeties, like equipment or different things? Or is it just going to be the drills is where we're going with the?
In terms of school safety, we have the ability to add additional recommendations, but specifically for this one of the things that we worked on last year was we implemented a brand-new standard response protocol, and a lot of the work has been working with staff to make sure that all staff understand what they should do in the event of a lockdown, a lockout, evacuate, shelter, or a hold. And so this year, previously there really wasn't necessarily district-wide tracking and compliance over every single drill. It was just an evacuate drill. So the SMART goal for this year is to expect our campuses to have 100% compliance with those drills. We tracked those drills this past year, and we had a really good response rate, but there were some campuses who missed a drill here or missed a drill there, and so we're coming back and making sure that when we talk about implementing a safety procedure, that we want them to follow that. So this is obviously just one SMART goal or one objective around school safety.
So you'll be adding more?
We can add more detail about how we're going to improve safety in the district.
I'm definitely like that as well.
Could I ask one question on that too, if you don't mind? How do you track that they're complying with the drills that they're supposed to?
So this first year, we had a really fancy Excel spreadsheet, but we worked with our campuses. Each campus has an emergency liaison, and they have assistant principals who work to get these drills done. Before the school year begins, all of our campuses provide a calendared list of when they're going to complete each drill that is set and required by the district, and then they are to do an after-action report after that drill and connect with our school safety coordinator, Mr. Warren. And when they don't do that, he follows up with them, and sometimes it's, we were going to do an evacuate drill, but it rained. And so he keeps a track of that and then follows up with them. This year it's going to be digital within our Raptor system. It has a module for that. So after a campus has their designated drills for the year, and the calendar items are due tomorrow, by the way, for campus principals, but they can go into that system and they can record their after-action report. We can run a report in real time and see where our campuses are in terms of running each of these drills. And then certainly Mr. Warren goes out as well to monitor some of them when they're in action.
And could you tell the board what, because I don't know if everyone knows all the different drills that they have to do.
Yes, so they do an evacuate drill, which is a fire drill if you have to evacuate the building for anything. There is a shelter drill, which could be for a severe weather. There is a lock out, where you want to lock out something. If there was a suspicious activity outside of the campus, you would lock it out, so you'd lock the exterior doors. There is a lockdown when there may be some sort of intruder inside the building, and you would lock each campus, a classroom door down. Then there is a hold, so if there was a medical emergency, let's say a teacher collapsed in the hallway, was short of breath, during class you could hold everyone, classroom activities would continue while EMS or the school nurse or someone might respond until they could return to normal activities.
Thank you. I didn't know if everyone knew all our drills, because they do have quite a bit now.
Yeah, and also with that, we added all that information to our school safety page. It's up there, and Mr. Warren is wrapping up a video to outline all of that for our community as well.
Okay, next question. So page 138, last objective, increase students, families, and community members' awareness of and access to all available academic programs. Can you tell us a little bit about, I might be the only one that doesn't know this, but the Naviance and the, I don't even know how to say the second one.
I circled them both as well. I had no idea.
Looks like Jello.
I believe it's Zello.
Looks like Jello.
I believe it's Zello. So Naviance is a program that we have where our junior high and high school students can look up scholarships, grant opportunities, information for applications. And Dr. Mostert, are you aware of Zello? That one might be.
Actually, in the Naviance program is with our high school students, and it is kind of a career and college exploration program that our college career facilitators help and assist kids to kind of walk through with some, and also outreach into the kids, and where we keep up a lot with our scholarship information as well. one of the things that we have begun to do with the Naviance, because we were concerned in the number of community members that were actually using it, is we're going through a whole reorientation and retraining with Naviance, which is why we wanted to put it within the goal, so that we could increase the usage community-wide. When you begin to look at Zello is utilized at the junior high level, and again, is a career exploration with them as well in utilizing a different program. But we also wanted, it was a first-year implementation, and we wanted to continue to see an increase in usage moving forward.
So, for example, my son's going into high school this year. So they will be teaching him about it, or they'll be teaching the parents, or when
I
is
think
that
it's
gonna
a
happen?
both I think it would be a both component, but primarily it is a student tool that also communicates where parents have an understanding of that. But that is definitely something we will work with our campuses on to ensure that our parents completely understand, or have a better understanding, shall I say, of what is available in that program.
And that's why they log their volunteer hours?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay,
Yes.
so
I had a question about that. Is Naviance working right now for ninth grade, going into ninth grade now?
We might be doing, that would probably be a Brian Moore. Have we done the rollover yet?
It's not fully updated.
Okay, I was
Okay.
curious.
When do you expect it to be?
I would,
Within the next week and a half.
Thank
So before
you.
school starts, I think.
Thank you.
Are these custom software programs that are on district computers, or are these websites that?
they are web-based.
So the
yes.
public can access them as well? Or just somebody
Kids
on
can
the?
With
access,
access
yeah.
codes, they can, the student access codes.
So would a
Students.
parent only be able to access it if they had their students?
ID and information, I believe so.
Like the
Mr.
parents
Dr.
don't have an
Maxwell, that is
access
true.
code, the
Yes.
students have an access.
The students.
That's correct.
Because this is my own personal, because I'm in so many different organizations that we give out scholarships, and to get some of these kids to know, and then they come back, well, we didn't know about it.
Well, that's the career in college, the facilitators are supposed to make the kids aware of them.
I know, and you have very few people going after money that's there. So
But
is this something that, where that information
No,
would be?
these programs would not necessarily have the Rotary Club or
But
some of those types of.
They're in there, a lot of them are in there, scholarships.
Okay, well, then that's.
They are, last
They've
year I
updated
was,
it a little
yeah.
bit.
It's a great program.
better than you thought it
Yeah.
It's better than I thought.
It's a really great.
But the thing that's really good about it is that if a kid decides they want to go to USC or they want to go to Princeton, they can pull up all the information about what it takes to get into that university, all of the scholarships that are available for it. And the college and career facilitators should be meeting with the freshmen as soon as they come into school and start having that conversation about getting ready. It is too late to apply for scholarships their junior and senior year. And so we're starting that process earlier, and Naviance provides the support for that.
It's a great program. yeah.
Good. Okay, I learned something new, thank you. All right.
And then the Canvas system, I mean, I guess, is there something new with Canvas, or we're just making sure more people understand? Sorry, that's page 137, second objective. Equip all parents and guardians with the tools to support student learning and growth. All campuses will inform parents about the Canvas system. The teachers will have a homepage in the system, and 90% of the Canvas goals created by each campus will be attained in June of 2020. So I guess what are the goals that they're trying to, I mean, I've used Canvas for a couple of
Each campus identifies their own, and so when we look at, there are a couple of things that, like last year, it was that everybody would have an open homepage at one of our campuses, that all teachers within the campus would have an open homepage on the system to be utilized. It's a way that our community, our kids, our teachers can communicate with parents, put their assignments up and such. To keep track, there's a discussion board on there. And so one of the things that we want to ensure is that all of those goals that we're setting at all campus-wide, that we're achieving those.
So you're saying
So it's a
you're trying to-
second year for elementary, their second year implementation with Canvas. and then this will be the third year for secondary. And so this is kind of where, again, kind of in the training aspect with our teachers. And I can have Katie, actually, Marchena.
But actually, what this is doing is just, we're not getting the use that we would like, and that was discovered during some of the conversations with strategic plan. And this is setting a specific target that we're going to be working on with all of the campuses to try to increase that usage.
Not the use, teachers using it or parents using it?
I think both.
Okay.
I think both, is that we want to ensure that parents completely understand what is available with Canvas, and that teachers are feeling more comfortable with it and are utilizing it as a source. Particularly as you begin to look at college, and we're preparing kids for college and career readiness, a lot of our college classes are online. And that's actually not even at college. When they start taking dual credit, for a lot of those programs, there are online aspects to it. And it will provide our teachers the opportunity to utilize that, and our kids to utilize that at home as well, and in the class. And so it's kind of a real-time training for multiple reasons. Okay.
That's all mine.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay.
Well, I just had just a suggestion, and it was that on page 138 at the top, where it recommends that all campuses in Lamar CISD, well, I guess, so that would be campuses receiving an ARB, and so that wouldn't be the district receiving an ARB, that would be the campuses, okay?
That's correct.
Okay. Never mind, thank you.
Okay. This is all very new to all of us, so I appreciate the questions too.
What piece of that is new?
This is all, I mean.
Whole SMART objective? SMART
Yes,
goal?
all we passed last year was the strategic plan. This is all new.
In April.
In
Of
April.
this year.
April of this year. So they have been working on this to provide us at this time, so they can move forward, and like he said, pulling it together with the campus improvement plan. So it's making a little more sense, because this is something all of us too are reading for the first time.
And I'm not sure the public understands that. We all work and have jobs and stuff, and we get a book 5 days before the Tuesday meeting, and it's, diving into it for the first time, many of these issues and many of these programs and different things, and you start asking questions, and then you kind of feel like a dope, because you're thinking, you don't need to dig that deep, we got a whole step, but we're trying to understand, so I can speak for myself only, but that's why I ask so many questions, because I'm ignorant in some of this stuff.
But the rest of us are listening because we want the answers too. So thank you for the questions. Okay.
I just had one question. When I first got on the board, we weren't this extensive until Holsworth got into this. They had a big part of initiating the second and third step of the SMART goals. So, I mean, we used, with Holsworth's, they kind of put it out there. We really needed to get a little bit more in-depth.
Right.
Am I understanding it that way?
Yeah, we referred to them as priorities before, and then we created SMART goals so that there would be something specific that was a target that you could measure at the end of the.
Yeah. But I do remember the word priorities. Okay.
Sorry, while they were talking, I thought of one word another. So on page 139, the objective, I had some notes here and I forgot about them. So for the first objective, increase the mental and emotional health supports and resources to improve social and emotional well-being among students. The SMART goal is character counts, guidance, lessons will be implemented by professional school counselors for each pillar by June 2020. Is that the same thing as, I know the wellness model, we're trying to relieve the counselors of some of the other duties and actually let them, use their counselor duties. Is that part of?
Character counts is a component of the whole child health and wellness model.
So is that's still like kind of one of the goals, though, is to make sure that some of the admin duties are lifted off the counselors and they're getting time to.
And Dr. Mossich can talk more about character counts specifically, but it was launched last year, but we wanted, as a component of our whole child health and wellness model, we wanted to make sure that all of our staff and our students used it with more fidelity. So I know they did a lot of training with our campus administrators to begin the year.
But your question was, are we still working on and focused on trying to relieve our counselors of a lot of the additional responsibilities. And the answer to that is we're still working on that, yes.
Okay,
Okay. You good?
I think I'm done.
Okay.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. So are there any other questions or concerns or comments? So at this time, can I call for the vote? Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So all in favor of approving the Superintendent SMART goals for 2019-2020, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right. Moving on to some good information.
Good evening.
We're here this evening to present our STAR results and our little bit more information about our accountability ratings for this year. First, those of you that have been on the board have probably seen the next couple of slides once, but I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to understand the context of this. The state assessment system in the state of Texas is based around the STAR test, which is the state of Texas assessments of academic readiness. The STAR test, if we look back historically, we've now been giving a state test in Texas for 40 years. And the STAR test is the fifth generation of a state test. So just to go through these real quick, the first one we had was 1980 to 85. That was the Texas Assessment of Basic Skills, followed by the Texas Educational Assessment of Minimal Skills that we gave 86 to 90. 1990 to 2002, it was the Texas Assessment of Academic Skills, or the TAS test, followed by the TAX test, which was the Assessment of Knowledge and Skills, 2003 through 2011. And then since 2012, we've been giving the STAR test. The point that I want to make with this is that the expectations of each generation of test has increased substantially. We've gone from a test of basic skills in 1980 to a test of academic readiness today. And that today's test, the STAR test, is the first test in the system in the history of assessment in Texas that had the expectation of doing things beyond high school, going to college, being college and career ready. And so if we look back and we take a look at the question that was asked to an 11th grader in 1982, an 11th grader would have had this question. Very, very, very basic skills of literacy. By the time we got to the STAR EOC test for Algebra 1 in 2017, the questions had evolved to something that looks like this. Requires much more background skills, much more background knowledge, and applying those skills to answering questions. So it's a tremendous change in the last 4 decades in the depth of rigor and the depth of knowledge that we have with our state tests. The STAR test has 2 different components to it. The first one is when we look at grades 3 through 8, there's a math and reading test throughout all of those grades. There's a writing test at grades 4 and 7, a science test at grades 5 and 8, and a social studies at grade 8. You'll notice in the following charts, grades 5 and 8 will have higher results because students can take those tests multiple times. Those are promotion or retention years. So students have up to 3 opportunities to take those, of which the first 2 will count towards public school accountability. The end of course tests are at the high school. There's 5 of those tests. There's Algebra 1, English 1, English 2, Biology, and U.S. History. The expectation is that if a student doesn't pass the first time, they get an opportunity to retest during their subsequent years and they have to pass all of the tests in order to graduate, with some special exceptions for special needs children where they could be exempt after taking the test. If students pass at least 3 out of 5 of the tests, but they can't pass the other 2, we do have what's called the Senate Bill 149 option, which they can go to an individual graduation committee. In our district, they do a project, and based on how successfully they do on that project, we decide whether or not they meet the criteria. Students can score at 3 different performance levels on the test. The first one is approaches. That's the minimum passing standard. A student that scores at approaches will need more intervention in the next year in order to be successful at the next level. At meets grade level, the students will be prepared to go on and pass the next grade with little or no intervention, or just some minor interventions. And then the master's level, the student is pretty much already ready to go on, and they are expected to pass the next grade level. These are aligned, the meets and the masters are both aligned to expectations of how well students will do in college. A student that scores at meets grade level has about a 67% chance of going through their freshman year without any extra interventions when they arrive at college. A student scoring at masters, it goes up to about 75%. So if we look at our passing rate versus the state, in reading, we're above in every grade level, 3 through 8, and we are above by a pretty significant margin. Do remember that at 5 and 8, those two have multiple opportunities to retest. When we look at math, we're above in every grade level except for 7th grade. And at 7th grade, that's a bit of an anomaly because at 7th grade, over half of our students now actually take the 8th grade test because they're preparing to go on in 8th grade to take Algebra 1. We're ahead of the state in writing in both 4th and 7th grades. Science in grades 5 and 8, and social studies at grade 8. When we look at the high school and we look at the end of course tests, we're well ahead of the state in both English 1 and English 2. We're proud to say we made some fairly significant gains in those 2 tests this past year. And we're also ahead in Algebra 1 by a fairly good clip as well. That's an area where just about 3 or 4 years ago we were actually behind the state. So we've actually come out ahead. When we look at the performance levels by different categories and how students are doing at those levels, most of our students are scoring around 90%. 90% of our students are scoring at least approaches, around 60% at meets, and a little bit above 30% for masters. You notice that writing is the lower point in all of these 3 data points, but the writing and the reading tests are going to go through reconstruction in the next few years. They'll be merged into a single test 3 years down the road, because this is not only a trend with us, but it's a trend statewide. The public school accountability system is called popularly the A through F system. It was created in 2017 through House Bill 22. There are 3 domains for which public schools are scored in the state of Texas. The first domain is student achievement, the second one is student progress, and then the third one is closing the gaps. The student achievement and the student progress domains, the best score for both campuses and school districts is taken from that weighed at 70%, and then they take the score of closing the gaps and weigh it at 30%. So to kind of give an analogy here, if you're in high school, your 3 6-week averages weigh at about 85%, your final exam weighs at about 15%. So you have to think about it kind of in that context. Domain 1 for elementary and middle schools is straight up the STAR test. It's taking the average of those that are scoring at approaches, meets, and masters. For high schools, it's a little different. It's a way between the STAR test, college, career, and military readiness, and graduation rates, of which college, career, and military readiness and graduation rates are what we call lagging indicators. They're reported 1 year behind when it actually occurred. So when we look at our ratings that we received in the last 24 hours, the CCMR rate and the graduation rate actually applied to the class of 2018, not yet to the class of 2019. When we look at college, career, and military readiness, it's made up of several different components that a child can meet before they graduate. A child can either earn a 3 or higher on an AP test. They can earn 3 or more college credit hours in either English or math, 9 or more college credit hours in any other subject, earn an improved industry certification from Career and Technical Education, complete and receive college credit from an on-ramps approved course, meet or exceed the Texas Success Initiative, either by meeting the standard on the SAT, ACT, or the TSIA test, have documented intent to join the United States Armed Forces, and we do get half credit for students that are in an aligned sequence courses that would lead to an industry certification. But that was something that the agency put in place to allow districts to convert and to gear up their career and technical ed programs, which will end at the end of this year. 69% of our students met one or more of those criteria for the class of 2018, which was 6 points above the state average, which was 63%. Domain 2 is actually 2 different components. The first one, which is Part A, measures the amount of students that are moving from just passing at approaches to meets and then masters. So it's looking for progress of students between school years. And then Part B takes the campus score from Domain 1 and compares it based on the percentage of economically disadvantaged students on the campus and looks for what the average is for a group of campuses. So if a campus is above the average, they'll get either an A or a B in that area. If they're average, they would get a C. If they're below average, they would get a D or an F. And then the final domain is closing the gaps. And that breaks down the information from domains 1 and 2 by different student populations and student groups. What that does, that allows us to match up to the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. Sorry, my voice is a little raspy. It allows us to match up to the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015 and meet the requirements of federal accountability. Based on all of this information, there are 5 letter grades that have been given, A through F, whereas an A represents performance 90 to 100, B 80 to 89, C 70 to 79, D 60 to 69, and then an F is below 60. aligned to the labels we used to have many years ago in the previous system. Whereas an A would be exemplary performance, B would be recognized, C acceptable, D would be in need of improvement, and then an F would be unacceptable. So LCISD, when we looked at the first run of the data, LCISD received an A in domain 1, a B in domain 2A, A in domain 2B, and in domain 3 we received an A in the first run of the data. So if we were to look at the data in the first run, we would have had a 91. However, the accountability manual states that if any domain has a school in which the school scores a D or an F, they will cap that at an 89. So what happened when we do have one school that in domain 3 earned a D. So what happened was they lowered the domain 3 score to an 89 or B, but the average was still high enough, the way between the 70% and the 30%, that the district earned an A. So we still earned a 90 overall average or an A letter grade. Campuses earning an A were Foster High School, Fulshire High School, George Ranch High School, Briscoe and Werkheimer, because our 6th grade campuses are paired with our junior highs, Reading and Ryan, Austin Elementary, Bentley Elementary, Campbell Elementary, Carter, Dickinson, Frost, Hubenack, Lindsay, McNeil, Ray, and Williams. Those campuses that earned a B were Lamar Consolidated High School, Terry High School, Wessendorf Lamar Junior High, Lehman Junior High, Adolphus, Arredondo, Beasley, Bowie, Huggins, Hutchison, Jackson, Long, Pink, Smith, Thomas, and Velasquez. Campuses earning a C were Navarro and George, which that's where we picked up the D in domain 3, Meyer, and Travis. None of our campuses scored beneath a C, okay, which is excellent, because when we do the spread, approximately 1 out of 5 campuses in Texas earned an A, about half the campuses earned a B, and about, I think it was 17% of the campuses earned a C. Along with the ratings, there are distinction designations. And distinction designations are like gold stars that a teacher would give on a good assignment, okay? So these are areas where we were recognized for excellent performance. And we could receive recognitions for reading ELA performance, math, science, social studies, academic growth, closing performance gaps, or post-secondary readiness. As a district, we received 86 distinction designations between all of our campuses, which is up from 76 2 years ago and 78 last year. So we are earning more and more accolades this year. Kudos to Frost, Hubenack, and Williams. They earned all possible distinction designations. Only about less than 5%, I think it was 4.16% this year, of schools will actually earn all of their eligible designations. Fulshire, Austin, Dickinson, Campbell, and Arredondo earned 5 designations, and that's only about 15% of Texas schools that get to that benchmark. And then we also give honorable mention to Foster, George Ranch, Taylor Ray, and McNeil for earning 4 designations each. The next steps are that, per the education code, as we've already, Mr. Rockwood alluded to tonight, we will be bringing not only the district improvement plan to you in October, but also campus improvement plans. And we have worked with campuses. Dr. Maxwell facilitated a 2-day workshop at Lamar Junior High, working with campuses to, based on their data, develop SMART goals individually and to work with their campus site-based decision-making teams to develop this year's plans, of which we should bring to you by October. Any questions?
I just had a comment, and
Yes.
As I was reviewing the data, I was able to look back at previous years, and one thing that stood out to me was not the overall data, but some of the schools specifically, just how much improvement there was. And many of those schools in particular were in the more economically disadvantaged areas. And like, for example, Pink Elementary went from the lowest rating in the district, a D, to a B. And I think that type of improvement doesn't happen in a vacuum. I think that's a testament to the wellness model and the community partnerships that we have. And when I visited Pink Elementary, they've got common threads that's helping out with clothing for those students. They've got students being delivered meals, so that way when they're not at school, they're able to ensure that they don't go hungry. They have social workers on campus, and man, we deserve that 94 for closing the gaps. We really did. But I really commend all of the staff and the principals and administrators and teachers, because that's a big deal.
I guess one of the things that stood out, just one little picture, House Bill 22 was actually passed during the legislative session of 2017.
That is correct.
So, but in 2017, 2018, we scored 6 points above state average in the domain where, and we're having to be accountable for something we barely even knew what was coming down the pike.
That is correct. And just to expand on what you're addressing, House Bill 22 was passed on Memorial Day weekend of the 2017 legislative session. And by that time, especially with college, career, and military readiness, our students had already crossed the stage. And so we were not only ahead last year, we were ahead by a little over a point, but to even make a bigger gain this year, I think is something to celebrate. Okay, thank you for your time.
And congratulations to all the hard work. All right, Dr. Randall, do we need anything more at this time? Is there any?
Not from our
Not from your standpoint. Is there any other information items we need to revisit today, or is it time to go to closed session? It's set to the board of what they need to go back to. Okay. So we will adjourn to closed session pursuant to Texas Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074, and 551.082, and the time is, well, I don't know. 8:23. I have no computers. No action from close. And it's what? It's 9:18 p.m.
That's the second longest meeting.
Okay. Not too bad. All right, come September 17th, we have only one meeting next month, so it will be no board workshop, just a board meeting. Is that correct? All right.
That's yours.
Huh? Okay. So at this time, is there any action or information items that we want to see on that agenda? Go ahead.
Yes, I have one. I would like to put and I already forgot the verbiage. I'd like to see us discuss having a parental engagement committee on the next agenda.
And I second that motion.
Okay. And we can appoint the committee at that time. And that's going to be an action item. All right, is there any other action items that we need for next month? Any information? We're good? All in? 9:20, meeting adjourned.